Last season, there was one really weird team. They were supposed to be in the playoffs, but injuries derailed their season. Through backup quarterbacks and an attempted murder with the helmet, the team still finessed their way to finishing the year at 8-8 for second in their division. At this point, it is obvious I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm conflicted with how well I think the Steelers are going to perform this year, but today, I'll be doing a roster overview of the team and concluding with how I think the 2020 NFL season will go for the Steelers and how they project to be in the future. I want to begin with the news that the Steelers released future Hall of Fame quarterback Devlin Duck Hodges. A sad day in the NFL when a talent like him is released for near no reason. Duck Hodges will be replaced by Ben Roethlisberger, who's coming off an elbow injury that he suffered last season. The weird thing about Big Ben is he said that this will be his first offseason he works out the whole time, which for an actual future Hall of Famer is beyond unheard of. Besides that, I think Ben will come back with no limitations and be back to his old self this season. In fact, with weapons Juju Smith-Schuster, Diontae Johnson, and Eric Ebron, I think he will have one of his better seasons this year. Ben, when healthy, is a top 12 quarterback in the league, probably higher honestly, so there really is zero reason he should fail. And speaking of Juju, last season was bad. Battling injuries and bad quarterback play, he finished with 42 catches for 552 yards and 3 touchdowns in 12 games. When newly brain-dead Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges are your starting quarterbacks for a majority of the season, it's very difficult to do anything with that, no matter how talented you are. Being fully healthy and having his real quarterback back again will help Juju get back to his old form. Maybe not the 111 catches for 1,400 yards in 2018, but just slightly worse numbers than that, and prove he's one of the better receivers in the NFL. Maybe have another 97-yard catch and run. Now, the person that's most exciting on this team is Diontae Johnson, who I and many others believe will have a breakout year going into his second season. In 12 starts in his rookie season, he recorded 59 catches, 680 yards, and 5 touchdowns, again with bad quarterback play. With Big Ben, these two receivers will be one of the better duos in the league, unless Johnson is not the player that I think he is. I quickly want to mention that I'm not high on James Washington, and I do not think he will be good, or at least as good as some others think he could be in his career for the Steelers. Now moving on to the most confusing tight end in recent memory, Eric Ebron. I don't know if he's actually good or not. After having a Pro Bowl season, he had a bad season, missing 5 games of course, but still bad in the 11 games. He went from 13 touchdowns to 3. A huge drop off. So in reality, is he good? I cannot answer that question with an answer I really am confident in. However, Ben has almost always had a good tight end by his side, so if Ebron is the player he showed in 2018, Ben and Ebron will both be great and have a lot of touchdowns together. The weapons in the passing game are definitely the best part of this offense, except for maybe one of the position groups, and potentially be at the top of the league soon. Moving on, James Conner at running back is weird for me. He had a good 2018 season with almost 1,000 yards in 13 games, and he is one of the best offensive lines in the league, ranked 9th heading into next season, which has 3 real stars on it and 2 solid starters. Andre Villanueva, Marquise Pouncey, and David DeCastro are all near the top of their positions in both aspects of being an offensive lineman, and will dominate protecting Ben, letting Conner get breakaway runs. If Conner is fully healthy, he will be a great help to this offense, which if Johnson does not break out and Eric Ebron is not the player that the public may think he is, we'll be screwed. However, that is the question. Will Conner stay healthy? As a Conner fantasy owner for half the season, I had to deal with him and his nagging injuries. I cannot begin to think of how bad it was for people who were Steelers fans. Being behind such a talented offensive line will do nothing but help him succeed during the season. I think that he will be great for the Steelers, and I think maybe finish top 12 in rushing yards, definitely over 1,000. As a unit, this offense could finish top 10 in passing, rushing, total yards, and scoring if everyone stays healthy and some of the passing weapons play up to their expectations and the hype surrounding them. Now onto the best part of this team, the elite defense. Just saying, this will be one of the first defenses I talk about basically every single player. If you've watched any of my videos that I do roster overview, I usually don't go into excessive detail about the defense, but the Steelers, it's going to be a long talk about them. Starting with the D-line and outside linebackers, there really are no weaknesses here. My pick for Defensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt, is the main star in this defense. Throughout his first 3 seasons, he has improved in sacks each year, as well as leading the league in forced fumbles last year with 8. He also had 14 tackles for loss, was a Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro, and came in 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Watt is just like his older brother, and in my opinion, may end up being just as good as him. Watt uses every move in the book to get by opposing teams' tackles, and works nearly every time clearly, as he had 59 pressures as well as 14.5 sacks in 2019. It hopefully would not be a surprise to anyone when he wins Defensive Player of the Year this year. However, Watt is not the only good pass rusher on this team. Bud Dupree had a breakout year last year after not looking so good in the past 4 seasons. Last year, he had 11.5 sacks, 16 tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles. He played like a Pro Bowler, except didn't make the Pro Bowl, and showed the Steelers why he was franchise tagged this offseason. Cam Hayward is one of the better interior pass rushers in the league. Last season he had 9 sacks and 11 tackles for loss. He was a Pro Bowler and a first-team All-Pro. Hayward is one of the more fun interior linemen to watch because he's not just good at stopping the run, but also a good pass rusher. Defensive linemen like that are the ones who really make a difference on any defense and are really valuable to any team. Stephon Tuitt is also not a bad defensive lineman, but he's not put up the best sack numbers, but him and Hayward are monsters in the trenches and are very good against the run. The Steelers' defense only allowed 3.8 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns on the ground. They were in the middle of the pack in yards allowed throughout the year, but that is mostly because teams ran the ball 462 times against them, which is almost 29 times a game. This is because they played a lot of run-heavy teams like the 49ers, Seahawks, Browns twice, Ravens twice, the Titans, and the Panthers. So it really does make sense that teams ran a lot against them. Moving on to the inside linebacker, they have one of my favorite rookies from last season, Devin Bush. The 5'11 stud linebacker, who did amazing his rookie season, was a key piece on this top 3 defense in 2019. As a rookie, he had over 100 tackles, 2 interceptions, 9 tackles for loss, a touchdown, but only 1 sack. While this defense led the league in sacks with 54 and had amazing pass rushers, so I don't blame him for not getting after the quarterback a lot. He's also undersized, so it was difficult for him to get by the offensive lineman, unless he just speeds by him, which is easily his greatest asset. Bush ran a 4.44 40 and uses that to his advantage when covering running backs and tight ends, as he can be the faster than some, or even most of the people he covers. I love Devin Bush. I think he'll become one of the better interior linebackers in the league very soon. One of the 2 players I really won't talk about that much is Vince Williams. Solid partner to Devin Bush, but nothing too special, but it's definitely a good running mate to him. On to the secondary. Joe Haden and Steven Nelson are the starting corners, with Mike Hilton being the third corner. Haden and Nelson are great, as they both allowed a pass rating under 67 last year, completion percentages under 54, allowed a combined 5 touchdowns. But Haden allowed all those touchdowns. But he was a Pro Bowler. That is no knock to Haden. He's a great corner, which is funny how Nelson, the Leicester player, allowed no touchdowns, while Haden allowed 5. Haden made up for those 5 touchdowns with 5 picks, tied for the lead on the team. CBS Sports ranked Haden as the 3rd best corner in the league heading into next season, which I do think is a little high. I can understand top 5. Mike Hilton is also a very solid corner. Not as good as the others, as he allowed an 84.8 passer rating, a 54.5 completion percentage, and 3 touchdowns. Definitely a solid third corner who can help the defense out when they run their nickel sets. They have a good safety duo in Terrell Edmunds and Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. Edmunds is obviously the lesser of the 2. When I say a good safety duo, it's mostly due to Minkah, and did not have the greatest season last year. Pro Football Focus said he was the biggest weakness on this team, and I have to agree. He allowed a 131.6 passer rating and 72 completion percentage. After being the 3rd safety selected in the first round of the 2018 draft, after teammate Minkah Fitzpatrick and Chargers safety Derwin James, it is really sad to see him play like he has. Even though he did not play well last season, Edmunds has a lot of potential due to the rest of the defense that surrounds him and the physical talent he has. Running a 4.47 40, being 6'1 and 217, he could end up being a huge problem for offenses in the long run of his career. Will that be with the Steelers? Who knows? Lastly, the 2nd best player on this defense and one of the best safeties in the NFL, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Since the Dolphins are my 2nd favorite team, seeing them trade him during his 2nd season hurt me a lot. Then seeing him do as good as he did hurt even more. Racking up 5 interceptions, allowing pass rating of 46.3. Yes, 46.3, and 1 touchdown, that ended up being selected to the first team All-Pro and a Pro Bowl. Deserving to say the least. Watching him play last season was great, as no offense was able to pass the ball to anyone he was covering, man or zone, and will continue to be one of the top 3 safeties in the league. And again, CBS Sports ranked another Steelers to be high in their top 10, as Fitzpatrick was ranked at the 2nd best safety in the league going to next year, which I think is reasonable. Very reasonable. This defense is elite, and I think it will finish as the best defense next year, at least against the pass and in sacks again. Now, how good do I think the Steelers will be next season? Let's just say very good. I see them as the 5 seed in the AFC, obviously behind the Ravens in their division just because there's Lamar Jackson in the bunch. I can see them going 10-6 or 11-5, being the best defense in the NFL, and at the very least, a top 12 offense in the league. With Ben Roethlisberger coming back healthy, that really is the most important thing for them. The insanity that this team just missed the playoff by 1 game, going 8-8, and would have made it in the new 17 playoff format with Mason Rudolph and the GOAT Duck Hodges, makes me wonder what the Steelers would have been if Ben, Connor, and Juju were healthy on offense. If you think they will not make the playoffs this season, if the season does not get canceled at some point, you are ludicrous. However, I am worried for this team's future. Big Ben is 38 and may see some regression in the coming years, especially with an elbow injury. But he looked good in the videos released of him, and people are saying he looks like a new man at training camp. So maybe he will age like a fine wine. They also have a lot of contracts running up in the next 2 seasons, as in Juju, Villanueva, Bud Dupree, Jordan Berry, their punter, Yes, punters matter. If Pat McAfee has taught me anything, it's punters are people too. Besides the point. Also, Mike Hilton and James Conner in 2021, as well as Big Ben, David DeCastro, Steven Nelson, Joe Haden, and TJ Watt in 2022. The team will either have to commit a lot of money to their core they have now and have zero money, or break up the team they have right now and rebuild. I think the best idea is to let at least Ben walk and draft a quarterback in the first or second round, preferably in the next draft, to evaluate the talent they get and make sure he is the guy after Ben. But I don't think they will do that because Ben has been loyal to them his whole career. To conclude this video, the Steelers in 2020 will be a playoff contender and could make the Super Bowl potentially after having an 8-8 season led by jokes of a quarterback room while letting TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick lead the way on defense. With all that being said, that is it from me guys. Thank you for tuning into Fanatic Sports. Hope you all liked the video, and if you did, please subscribe and hit the like button. It only takes like 2 seconds. Also, follow me on Instagram @FanaticSports25 and on Twitter @FanaticSports. Now before I head out, what team do you think will have a comeback season?